Okay, so it's been pretty quiet the last couple days around BTS. So let me wear a hat as an analyst and shareholder and read you an analyst report on HYBE. Because there's a specific analyst who said that the Korean entertainment sector, the entire sector, is projected to post record breaking earnings next year, 2026, driven by the return of, you guessed right, BTS. So, in a report titled Historic Momentum Over the Next 6 Months, 향후 6개월간 역사적 모멘텀이 반영될 것. The Hana Securities firm analyst stated that BTS World Tour announcement will be the key trigger, leading to significant upward revisions to 2026 earnings forecast and a rally in entertainment stocks. Okay, so let's start here, and I'm gonna talk about some other interesting stuff, and we will end the video by talking briefly about the stock. All right, so here we go. Yeah, I've included like GIF of BTS here and there in between the slides. All right, let's see. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. All right, over the next 6 months, we're likely to see historic momentum come into play. The official announcement of BTS World Tour is expected to mark the beginning of a major uptrend. All right, that's the title and subtitle. The recent sluggish stock performance is largely due to the lack of short-term catalysts like the World Tour announcements that boosted earnings for Stray Kids and Blackpink. So by that, they're talking about entertainment stocks such as HYBE and JYP, YG, and SM Entertainment. Speaking of which, HYBE stock. So what I just showed you was a 12 months chart, but for the past month, it's been, sluggish. Sluggish might be the right word. I mean, objectively speaking, it's not bad, but given how fast and how significant other stocks are rising, like semiconductors, which we'll briefly talk about as well, sluggish might be the right word. Okay, so HYBE has been rising 20% the past 6 months. SM Entertainment, for example, has been rising by 80%, but falling by 11% past month. JYP stock, like barely changed past month. Over the 6 months, it rose by 26%, and YG rose pretty significantly though. Rose by 1.6% past month, but past 12 months, it rose by 167%. Meanwhile, or actually, past 6 months, it's been like 64% rise. Meanwhile, Samsung Electronics stock, which is the largest company or stock by market cap in Korean market, it rose by 28% past month. Past 6 months, 71%, and past year, 60%. All right. So by comparison, the entertainment company stocks have been kind of sluggish in terms of its performance. All right. Let me get back to the report. So that's what they meant when they said the recent sluggish stock performance is largely due to the lack of short-term catalysts like the World Tour announcement that boosted earnings for Stray Kids and Blackpink for JYP and YG respectively. Ultimately, they said the key catalyst investors are waiting for is BTS tour announcements. All right. And then said, once that happens, it should trigger a sharp upward revision in 2026 earnings expectations and, in return, drive the stock price higher. Until then, HYBE's projected 2026 consensus EPS stands at around 9,000 Korean won, and applying a PE of 30x yields a stock price of roughly 270,000 Korean won. This suggests the current period of consolidation is within a reasonable range. Why? Because the current stock price is around 270,000 Korean won. All right. The stretch from October to November into the first half of next year. All right, let me Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. All right, so the stretch from October/November into the first half of next year is expected to be a long-awaited conviction buy zone. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, during this time, we will likely see BTS comeback and tour announcement, a possible comeback from Big Bang of YG, and continued earnings momentum. SM Entertainment and YG Entertainment have already delivered 3 consecutive quarters of earnings surprises. HYBE's market cap could climb toward 15 trillion Korean won, as the company remains a strong overweight recommendation. By the way, right now the market cap is 11.35 trillion won, but they are saying it might climb toward 15 trillion Korean won. In fact, I think the way they described so the way they describe is that they would continue to give a recommendation of the stock with the overweight recommendation, strong overweight recommendation, until the stock climbs toward 15 trillion. What that means is that they don't mean that it will stop at 15 trillion. They're not saying that that's going to be the cap, like that's the ceiling. What they mean is that until it reaches that point, it will continue to rate the stock as an overweight or recommended like a strong buy stock. You know what I'm saying? And then saying, reflecting the strong outlook for YG's Q3 results and the expectation for Big Bang's 2026 full group tour, YG's target price has been raised 12% to 145,000 Korean won. All right, so that's briefly about YG. Now let's talk about Q3 earnings outlook. YG above expectations, SM and JYP in line, HYBE below. Why would that be? So they said estimated Q3 operating profit is 33.6 billion Korean won for HYBE, 50.0 billion for SM, 50.8 billion for JYP, and 33.7 billion for YG. HYBE's revenue is expected to match forecast, but over 30 billion Korean won was poured into production for new acts like the Latin band and the boy group, weighing on profitability. Okay? The boy group Cortis, the new boy group Cortis, and the Latin band. SM should benefit from major artist comebacks and increased MD revenue from pop-up stores featuring aespa and NCT Dream. And YG is expected to post solid results thanks to activities from Stray Kids and Twice. JYP, what I meant was JYP, and YG should outperform thanks to Blackpink's world tour. All 4 companies are showing strong confidence in MD sales, which is a positive sign. Now, the next paragraph. By the way, this is a cute photo, cute GIF, so let me spend a couple more seconds here. All right, let's move on. If both BTS and Big Bang return in 2026, it could lead to record-breaking performance across Kpop. Although, I don't know, because even if Big Bang were to have a comeback, it wouldn't be a full group comeback though, because Seungri is gone for good. I cannot imagine any scenario where that guy, returns. And Top has said again and again that he doesn't have anything to do with the group, although he recently admitted that it was because he felt sorry and felt regrets about what he did and how it damaged the group, but that's a separate conversation. But let me read this report first, all right? So except for the dip caused by BTS military service in 2024, the K-pop industry has grown every year over the past decade. BTS is set to resume full group activities in 2026, and their revenue alone is projected to match the combined sales of JYP and YG. That's incredible. Stray Kids' recent world tour already delivered a major earnings surprise, and if Blackpink's tour delivers similar results, expectations for BTS tour will rise even further. On top of that, anticipation is building for Big Bang's full group comeback for their 20th anniversary. which also marks YG's 30th anniversary. Considering YG's revenue in 2024, despite Blackpink's limited group activities, a Big Bang tour alone could generate a similar figure. You wonder why this analyst is talking about other companies as well, because this report is targeting the entire sector, entertainment. All right, just for your understanding. And they said, if BTS and Big Bang resume activities simultaneously, it will be natural for the entire K-pop industry to post record-breaking earnings. As such, maintaining an overweight strategy until their full impact is reflected in the numbers remains valid. Okay, so that's a pretty interesting perspective. And yeah, Big Bang were huge. And I mean, their impact in the domestic market at least was pretty huge. And I'm pretty sure if they were to have a world tour as a group, the demand would be pretty high and that will contribute to YG's revenues, right? Anyways, now next section, another cute GIF. HYBE. So let's talk about HYBE's Q3 expectations. Q3 revenue and operating profit are projected at 693.3 billion Korean won, which is 31% increase year on year, and 33.6 billion Korean won, falling short of the consensus estimate of 62.8 billion Korean won. Album sales reached about 5.7 million units globally, including Japan, driven by releases from 17-unit album, TXT, ENHYPEN, and BTS Jin. And then, yeah, actually they said, sorry, let me take it back. So album sales were driven by releases from 17-unit, TXT, and a live album from BTS. Concert attendance is estimated at around 1.4 million, reflecting active schedules from BTS Jin, 17, TXT, and ENHYPEN. MD and licensing revenue tied to these activities are expected to be strong. Weverse monthly active users, MAUs, are estimated to have climbed to around 12 million following BTS military discharge. 12 million monthly active users. Okay, that's quite a lot. However, costs are rising. All right, so this is the very reason why they are expecting that HYBE will underperform the consensus when it comes to Q3 earnings. However, costs are rising. HYBE is incorporating debut and production costs for its new group, such as Cortis of Big Hit, and they said, and the upcoming boy group Santos Bravos, totaling more than 30 billion Korean won. That's a lot. All right, so combined cost of Big Hit's new boy group Cortis, and then Santos Bravos, who is about to debut on October 21st. After doing all the audition program, survival show program, is 30 billion Korean won, or more than that. Also, they said this year 4 teams, including AON in Japan, have debuted, and 3 more teams are expected next year. So that's something new, right? And 3 more teams next year. Who are they? A U.S. boy group produced with Ryan Tedder. We have talked about this on my channel, and a U.S. girl group, and they described it as Dream Academy 2. And yeah, we have talked about that as well, although its official name has not been set yet. And check this out, a new Korean girl group. I wonder which agency will debut this group. A new Korean girl group. Interesting. Now, BTS hinted at a full group return in the spring through their recent live stream. An album and a world tour are expected to follow, with an official announcement likely within the year. Short-term weakness in K-pop stock prices reflects the market's anticipation of the tour announcement, which would lead to sharply upgraded 2026 earnings forecasts. When Stray Kids and Blackpink announced their world tours, their stock prices rose 8% and 13% the next day. a single day, respectively, because the scale exceeded expectations. For BTS, next year's tour is expected to draw around 3 million attendees. And if the actual figure surpasses that, a similar stock price reaction is likely. If the tour size reaches 3.7 million to 3.8 million attendees, operating profit could exceed 550 billion Korean won. While HYBE's near-term earnings remain weak due to the absence of BTS full group activities, the company is still seen as a top pick with a recommended overweight position and anticipation of their return. All right, so that was a report, another cute GIF. Here's some forecast for their future earnings. Here are some graph. On the left, we see anticipated size of the audience for BTS concerts. 2019, 2020, that was canceled due to the COVID, right? And then 2026, there will be more than 3 million attendees, according to their expectations. All right. So, and here's a expected lineup for activity lineups for a HYBE artist. We have heard about and talked about, Cortez, they already debuted, but the new Latin band, we have already talked about that, Santos Bravos, and new US boy group produced by Ryan Tedder, and new US girl group as part of, the including the 3 girls who were involved with the Dream Academy. We have already heard about that and talked about that. But new Korean girl group, that's pretty new. So we'll see. Many analysts have some, information that the public doesn't know about. And although we have to take all the information included in these reports with a grain of salt, they sometimes have valuable insider information. Anyways, so after reading through this report, here's how I see it. So next 6 months are shaping up to be one of the most important turning points for the entire K-pop industry. And I agree with that. And a lot of that revolves around, you guessed it right, BTS. So the market is basically sitting in this holding pattern right now, waiting for the official announcement of their world tour. And once that news drops, analysts are expecting a pretty big reaction, not just in sentiment, but in actual earnings forecast for 2026. And if you think about it, that makes sense because, the report name dropped like Stray Kids and Blackpink, and when they announced their tours, their stock prices jumped right away. That is JYP and YG, because the scale of the tours was bigger than what the market had expected. Now, BTS is on a completely different level in terms of global reach, right? Their tour is expected to bring in around 3 million attendees, which is already amazing. And if it ends up being even larger, closer to 3.8 million, HYBE's operating profit could easily blow past 550 billion Korean won, and that's a massive number. And how many people will be tuning in through Weverse live stream? That's a separate matter. So that will be exciting as well. And it's not just from this analyst perspective, it's not just BTS. They also mention Big Bang's full group comeback for their 20th anniversary. So they say if both BTS and Big Bang are active at the same time next year, it's not an exaggerating to say we could be looking at the strongest year in K-pop's history. And HYBE's short-term earnings right now aren't particularly strong, and we have other analysts have been talking about this as well. Because why? The cost involved with debuting new groups, that's pretty large. But the market already knows this. So it's kind of priced in, I think. So again, the company has been pouring money into new groups, including Cortez and Santos Bravos, and investing in global expansion. By the way, Cortez has been killing it. And my expectation for the new Latin boy band is pretty big as well. So what we are seeing right now isn't weakness in the business itself. It's more like a setup for a much bigger growth cycle once BTS returns. And like I just mentioned, other report has talked about this cost issue as well. Do I have it right here? I don't think I have it. Is it this? Oh no, it's the same one. Let me 유진투자증권 산업분석 리서치 센터 right here. Oh, sorry. 유진투자증권 리서치. What we're saying is a security firm's website, entertainment. Okay. And then let me drag it right here. All right. So they actually, one of the analysts named Lee Hyun-ji, paid a visit to TMA 2025, the Fat Music Awards, I guess as part of their research activities. And they talked about the sector and investment strategy. And when they discussed HYBE, this is what they said. We spent a lot on rookie debuts. So they made this as a title, as if speaking from HYBE's perspective, HYBE's voice. We spent a lot on rookie debuts. They said for Q3, revenue is projected to reach 669 billion Korean won, with operating profit of 34.1 billion won, falling short of consensus expectations. In the third quarter, costs related to 3 new acts, Cortes, Santos Bravos, and Musa, which is a new Latin band group, were fully reflected, weighing on profitability. All 3 groups require higher debut investments compared to typical K-pop acts, increasing cost pressure and lowering near-term earnings expectations. That's pretty interesting. Higher than usual K-pop acts. Localization strategy proving itself in numbers. Cat's Eye has grown rapidly in the US, reaching the point of launching a North American tour just 18 months after debut. Despite its higher debut cost, the group is expected to turn profitable in the second half of next year. Incredible. Marking its second anniversary. This shows HYBE's localization strategy is now producing tangible results. Building on Cat's Eye's success, HYBE is preparing to debut a diverse lineup of local artists across key regions, including US, Japan, Latin America, and India, signaling continued global expansion. And mega IP returns in 2026. BTS is expected to kick off its large-scale world tour in spring 2026, starting with the release of a new album. Boom, and continue full group activities into 2027 at a similar scale. While earnings for the second half of this year are expected to be somewhat soft, significant profit growth is anticipated once BTS activities ramp up next year. So there you go. This report was published, I think, on the 2nd, October 2nd. Yeah, October 2nd, by Eugene Investment Securities firm. All right. Now, this is why analysts are calling October through the first half of next year a conviction buy zone. So meaning it's a period where a lot of things are expected to line up at once, including BTS comeback and other factors like Big Bang's return and continued momentum from SM, JYP, and YG. And if you follow HYBE's valuation, the target market cap is, according to Hana Securities firm, is sitting around 15 trillion won, which is, some might say aggressive, but I don't think it's aggressive at all, because once the sentiment changes, we see how dramatically fast the stock price could rise and market cap could rise. But that's totally doable if BTS delivers, and we all know they will deliver. So yeah, in short, the stock story right now is less about what's happening this quarter and much more about what's coming next year. So yeah, this could be really interesting for investors because this isn't hype out of nowhere. It's a hype that we know it deserves hype. You know what I'm saying? Because the last decade has shown that concert tours drive real earnings, and BTS comeback is a global event, not just a domestic one. So yeah, those expectations will become reality, and we could see, according to Hana securities firm, one of the biggest momentum cycles that this sector, K-pop industry, has ever seen. Pretty exciting times. Now, looking at HYBE's daily and weekly charts side by side gives us a pretty clear picture of where the stock currently stands and how the trend has developed over time. So on the daily chart, the stock has pulled back from its recent peak around 323,000 Korean won, and is now hovering in the 270,000 range. And what stands out here is how cleanly the stock has been respecting its moving averages over the past several months. So after bottoming out near 157,000 Korean won last year, it built a strong uptrend through the first half of this year. And now we are seeing it move into a consolidation phase. So the 60-day and 120-day lines are still upward sloping if you look at it, which means the broader uptrend hasn't been broken. But the short-term 5-day and 20-day lines have started to curl down, which shows that momentum has cooled off in the short term. And you can see how trading volume has thinned out compared to the big spikes during the run-up, which suggests that investors are in more of a wait-and-see mode rather than aggressively buying or selling. And that fits well with the current fundamental backdrop, so to say. The market is basically waiting for that BTS tour announcement. Although I personally thought that the market would react faster in advance, but I guess it's in a wait-and-see mode. Okay. The weekly chart, we can skip the weekly chart, but yeah, the structure still looks clear. HYBE has already gone through a major down cycle after hitting its all-time high at 421,500 Korean won, then bottomed at how much? 107,000 Korean won, and spent more than a year rebuilding its base. And the rally that followed from late 2024 into 2025 has been steady rather than explosive, which is actually a healthier sign for long-term investors. So even with the recent pullback, I think the stock remains well above key support levels. So yeah, right now, HYBE is sitting right in the middle of a consolidation range, above its long-term moving averages, but below its short-term highs. So this kind of setup usually means that the stock is, storing energy for the next move, so to say. And, whether that next move breaks upward or downward will likely depend on a clear catalyst, and the timing of the BTS tour announcement could be exactly that. In that case, it will likely move upward. So yeah, so in simple terms, short-term momentum has cooled and long-term trend is still intact. And we're at a point where news could drive the next leg. All right. Anyways, now this is where I want to add something important, because a lot of people lately seem to think that HYBE stock has been falling because of the investigation surrounding Bang Xiok, Hitman Bang, or Chairman Bang. But when you actually look at the numbers and the chart, that doesn't really hold up. Why? Because if that were the case, you would expect to see HYBE underperforming while other entertainment stocks like SM, JYP, or YG holding up much better. But in reality, they've all been moving sideways or slightly down over the past few months. In other words, this isn't a HYBE specific issue. It's a sector-wide cooldown. And it also lines up with what's happening in the broader market. Okay, so when you analyze companies' stocks, you shouldn't simply look at the stock by itself. You have to compare with its peers and the broader overall market. So right now, investor attention has shifted heavily toward semiconductors, and this is the case not only in Korea but in the U.S. and globally as well. So where are we? What we're looking at is Samsung Electronics. They are leading the rally currently, and that's classic sector rotation. Money didn't disappear; it just moved somewhere else temporarily. And Samsung Electronics is largest company in Korea by market cap. And let's not forget, HYBE's performance over the past year has actually been strong, objectively speaking. The stock is more than 50%, up more than 50% year on year, which is hardly a sign of weakness. And it just feels slower now because the stock is consolidating after a solid run earlier in the year. And I'm pretty sure some shareholders in the HYBE stock are feeling FOMO because everything else is rallying. And if you are US investors, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. The stock market has been super hot this year thanks to various factors, one of them being the president of the US really wants the stock market to go up. Actually, that's the case in Korea as well, the current president. Anyways, that's why I don't see this as a bearish setup. I see it as a holding pattern, a period of rest before the next catalyst. And we already know what the catalyst is likely to be. Again, BTS comeback and world tour announcement. So when that happens, it can easily break this consolidation range and push the stock into its next leg up. All right. Now, on top of that, I think the timing here is really interesting because last Friday, so yesterday, October 10th, the US market sold off very sharply on Friday because of the tariff headlines involving China. Yeah, Trump posted something on Truth Social, his own social media, right? And that's likely going to set the tone for how the Korean market opens on Monday, next Monday. S&P 500. It fell by 2.7%, and NASDAQ fell by 3.56%. And the largest stock in the world, Nvidia, fell by around 5%. So that's going to affect the Korean market as well. Now, if HYBE can hold steady or even rise slightly while the broader market is under pressure, that might be a strong sign that a lot of the recent correction has already been absorbed. And it would signal that the stock has found some support and that sellers are starting to run out of steam. But of course, if it breaks below the previous low, then that would mean the correction isn't done yet, right? And we may need to see it settle at a lower level before the next move. So we'll have to see. And this also ties into how I think about selling in the future as a shareholder in the long run. Well, I'm not the kind of investor who sells just because of short-term volatility. For me, there are certain sentiment indicators that matter more. So one of them is when the Korean media starts openly celebrating how much HYBE stock has risen, or highlighting how well the Kpop ETF is doing. Okay, so there's a combination of checkboxes that I'll be keeping in mind. And another checkbox is when the headlines shift from Bang Seok's wealth has dropped, which is what the Korean media has recently talked about, to Bang Seok's wealth has surged because he owns 30% of HYBE stock. A third indicator might be when the Korean media starts reporting on how much the BTS members' stock wealth has increased, because the members are the shareholders. Although currently we don't know how much they hold currently. And that usually means the story has gone fully mainstream and retail enthusiasm is at its peak. And lastly, I might also pay attention to when new and less proven K-pop agencies start pushing to IPO. A good example is this company called Galaxy Corporation. Galaxy Corporation is a company that signed G-Dragon despite having no prior track record as an agency. And moves like that can often signal that late-stage hype is entering the market. We will see when that will be. It's much down the line. I don't have to worry about that, but I'm already planning ahead. So, of course, these kinds of signs don't show up during early or mid-cycle rallies. They show up near the top when everyone has already bought in and media hype is at its loudest. So if or when I ever think about trimming or taking profits, it will be around that kind of sentiment peak when everybody's talking about BTS and HYBE and K-pop industry, but not during a normal consolidation period like this now. So yeah, that's why I think it's important to separate noise from signals. Right now, HYBE's price action doesn't reflect panic. It reflects rotation. I think I might be wrong, but it reflects rotation and consolidation. So the real test will be how it behaves during market stress and how sentiment evolves once the BTS comeback catalyst hits. Okay, so yeah, the way I see it, we are at a really interesting crossroads. The next 6 months will probably shape how the K-pop investment story is remembered for years. So when BTS announces their world tour, within that window, we might be looking at the strongest earnings cycle in this industry's history. So here are some questions that I would like to end with. When BTS announces their world tour in the next few months, where do you think their first stop should be? Haven't I already asked this? First stop outside Korea. And which country do you want them to visit first? And how do you personally feel about this upcoming comeback? And do you have any certain expectations? And what kind of tour do you imagine from them? Like, do you want a classic stadium tour or something else? And what's the one moment you are waiting for most? The comeback album drop, or the tour dates, or the first live performances as OT7 again? And finally, if you had to guess the month that the world tour gets announced, what would you bet on? All right, so feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section. And as always, try to stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.